I'm no punk, but it's like 36 degrees in here and it is cold. Look at what we got here. Another mod motor. I'm almost in no mood to deal with this mod motor in this temperature, but it's for a buddy of mine, as always the case, and it's losing oil pressure. It seems to be a common thing with these things. So we don't know, did the tune tear it up? Did he tear it up? Did he space something wrong? Are the bearing clearances off? We're not sure, but we're gonna be in a minute. So once we get this thing sorted out, hopefully we never have to see it again. Sorry for the heater noise, guys, but it's just something you're gonna deal with for a minute because 36 degrees, I'm not a punk, but I'd rather be a little bit warmer. If we can get it up to 40, maybe 45 in here, I'll be a little bit happier. Also, I bought this ratchet from Summit Racing. I usually buy Milwaukee, but I had a couple gift certificates to Summit Racing and I saw they had this for a decent deal. Came with 2 batteries for like under $100. So decided to try it out. So far, so good. It's a little bit slower than the Milwaukee, but still saves you a lot of effort and hand wrenching. I don't like all this silicone though. It's definitely slower than the Milwaukee. Definitely slower than the Milwaukee, but still works fine. We'll see what battery life is like. That one was loose. I guess we're thinking about putting a heat pump out here. Kind of help with the heating. I didn't get it insulated yet. It's just been a busy year for everything. We got it. Let's see what we got under here. First thing, they weren't silicone down in the corners. They should be, but they weren't. So that'll contribute to an oil leak. It's not an oil pressure problem. So always, always, always look over the stuff you see before you start tearing it apart. Because he's having a lot of oiling issues that really shouldn't be a thing, and I don't understand why they're a thing on this engine. Let's see, metric. There we go. We'll crack them loose. Those way too tight. Way too tight. Should never have to, it's a timing cover, guys, not an engine mount. Never have to smoke them down that hard. Never have to smoke them down like that. That's how you rip threads out of these aluminum blocks. You know, see how tight they made these. One. Two. Three. Different washers, different bolts. I smell something. What do we got? That's gonna be fun. Ain't no way my impact's taking that off, but I got an idea. These are from Harbor Freight, they're handy. What size is that? Let's see. Let's go with 11/16 and then maybe a 3/4. It's probably not, but maybe it is. 3/4 it is. Got it. Should have came out that way, should have been Loctited. That's okay. That's what you get sometimes though. Sometimes what I do on these is you can have these are like old GM caliper bolts. You just need something to bottom out in there and not damage the threads. And these kind of are just touching the threads, so we don't want that. You can leave the stud in a lot of times and you're fine. But I found stuff like this will work just fine too. Just gotta find the right one you're happy with, one that'll work. This will work. There, it goes in. Now we gotta take these little guys out. What are the chances they come out? We'll see. They're not 10mm. Must be 3/8. You know, every time, right? Every time. Oh yeah. Nosy Loctited. Those he Loctited. Huh. A little bit well used. Tip's gone, but whatever, still work. Sometimes you can see, you can grab these with the factory bolts. And since this is a 3-bolt, not a 2-bolt, I have a feeling this balancer has been on and off more times than it needs to. So, let's see if we can get it with this guy. Will it take it off? I'm gonna say these were, yeah, 1/2 inch, maybe 13, because it's probably been whaled on the end of it. There you go. Let's see, will it go? It will not go. You know how to fix that, right? Crack. NHRA, IHRA, and NASCAR accepted. If I saw a 4.6 in NASCAR, I'd laugh. Sorry, modular guys, I am not a fan. Every modular I see, while they make good power, while the blocks and cranks are strong, they're just too expensive, they're too complicated, there's no good aftermarket head choices. Unless you got a 2-valve, then you have trick flow. But, like people say, oh, I made blah, blah, blah power on OEM heads. Sure you did. They were ported, worked over, everything like that. He did seal these. These are reusable gaskets, so we will reuse them. Anytime on any of these modern engines with multi-piece fronts, like the heads intersect with the oil pan and stuff like that, you want to take and put a dab of silicone at each joiner, so that way you don't get a leak there, because there's a little bit of a transition on all of them, and if you do not seal them, they will leak. So that's a little bit of a tip for you guys. Also, on the balancer bolts, you should seal them too. A lot of guys don't do that, and on these modulars they do create leaks. They're great. The nice part about the modulars is they do have a more modern gasket design than a lot of the old pushrod stuff, which is nice. However, it comes with the fact that you got to buy a $500 oil pump if you want to make any kind of power. You got to have everything just right, and then if you have everything just right and you have a shit tuner, they'll still blow it up for you. The other thing to check on these is make sure your reluctor wheel here isn't worn out, because when the balancers come loose, it'll egg this keyway and it'll start fretting back and forth and open it up. This one isn't bad. He does have MMR guides in here, which, you know, something can be said about that. Neat tip for everybody: if you grind this little nub off on the front of these gaskets, it makes it easier to slide the timing cover on and off. This is a 3-valve high volume pump. The oil galley plug is there, so that's a good sign. The tensioners are on the right side. They are the metal tensioners, so that's a good sign. On these 4.6s, you want to make sure you line up the key the proper way before you release the chains. I usually set it about 12 o'clock, and then that puts all the pistons down in the hole a little bit. Just like that. It's a lot of moisture in this pan. That's not a good sign. Shouldn't be that much moisture in that pan. So that leads me to believe either on these things they like to have oil filter adapter problems. Interesting. That shouldn't be like that. But let's go ahead and get the pig mat, because every time you take these tensioners off, they hold oil behind them and they will leak. Loctite. There ain't a ton of power to this thing. It is struggling here. A little bit of metal in there. Nope. She said nope. Guys, You don't have to use red. Blue would have been enough. To be honest, I probably tore apart 300 of these. Hey, look at that oil. And none of the OEM ones even have Loctite on these bolts. So, seriously? That's too much. I get why you do it. But it doesn't have to be that way. Wow. Also, one other thing to look into these heads, they should have oil restrictors. Or orifices, I don't know, whatever, to help keep oil metered to the cylinder heads. And some shops will pull them to clean them out after you have a bad bearing and not put them back in. There's a little bit of tension on that. The nice part about the comp cams, they got a little bit of a, well, not a little bit, but they got a low, what temperature we have to? Hey, 50 degrees. We're getting there. So, what I like to do, there are locking tools. You don't need them. See how that just came right off there? Pull this tensioner off, guide shoe, and then you can pull this off, take this chain off, slowly release it. There you go. Same thing on the other side. Check your tension. There we go. Slack it to that side. Always check these tensioners too on the back, see how it's getting beat up. That's a lot of two-step action. Banging off the rev limiter, two-step action, whatever you want to call it. Pull them off. Now, if this thing cannot take these little guys loose, we got a bigger problem. You know, nothing nicer than having different hardware. And all your bolts. So 1, 2, should have been different sizes there. 3. 4. All right, so what do we got? Give everything a look. All right, the plugs are in there. So we're there on that. That's not bad. That galley plugs in. I don't know if these are the upgraded pins or not. They should be, but who knows? What do we got there? Somebody will be yelling in the comments, that's this size. Well, I don't remember it anymore. I want to say 16, but I could be lying. I'm lying. Let's go with 14 maybe. Huh. Maybe it's 15. Maybe. 15 it is. All right, so there's a pattern to torque heads and there's a pattern to de-torque heads. Make sure you follow that. I'll bring you guys back when I get those off. No sense sitting here watching me break loose head bolts. And we are back for the moment we're all waiting for, at least the owner and I, to see what is under the cylinder heads. Well, they're definitely glued down there. There we go. Take them off, stand them up. So the galley plugs are in. There is a lot of moisture and oil. In these heads. That's craziness. Never had one stuck on the dowels that bad. Ugh. You can smell the race fuel. So the galley plugs are in. But there is a mess going on in here. Let's get a rag and wipe these cylinders out. I think he said he put oil in them, now that I'm thinking about it. Melted. A lot of rust. lot of rust in there. There's something on a couple cylinders I see that I do not like. So it looks like it's sat with moisture in it. I didn't think he would have smoked that drain plug down, but the threads feel tight. Man, there's a lot of scuffing in the bores, a lot of heat marks. What do you want to bet this thing piled up a ring? I'm gonna put my money on messed up rings. All right, so the pan is dry. That's always good. Hopefully, all the coolant's out of it. We'll find out. The coolant is not out of it. I can see it. That's interesting. That's ice. I asked this customer, did he drain this thing? And he said, yeah. That's ice. That's ice. And well, we're in it now. That sucks. Can't say I'm happy. That's why you always be honest with your engine guy. Because now we got a bigger mess. Do this. I don't like that handle. That's probably better break them off with a ratchet anyway. Huh, I wonder what this little shield's for. Wow. All right, guys, once again, they're pan bolts. You don't have to torque the bejesus out of them. If you are, I mean, find something else to do. So here's where things are gonna get a little bit already running out of space. I want to take out 6 7 some homebrew stuff going on there. That was loose. That's not the way this should be done, guys. Let's go get a ratchet. What size would that be? 7/16? Yep. Let's go ahead and break. We'll do 5, 6. 7. Oh, let's break them all loose. Because we know they all got to come out anyway. One, 2, 3. All right. So 6 and 5 are the ones I want to take out the most right now, because they're the ones I see some marks in the bore. Get our rod altitude adjuster out, and where did I put it? There we go. Bearing stayed in the rod. Lower. Looks terrible. Terrible. This thing had a lot of issues going on. Same thing. That bearing is terrible. He said he had just put these in, hadn't even ran it at the track yet. That bearing to me same thing, the upper is trashed. Wow. So where is all his oil pressure going? And they left me a rounded off bolt. Nice. All right, guys, I'm gonna bring you back when I get this thing disassembled. They got some stuff going on here and I need to take a closer look. All right, guys, so we got this thing apart. The only thing I see is that the bores are 2 to 2.5 thou out of round. Now, where they're out, I also do know that when you torque these modulars, it pulls the bores another thou out of round. So that's leaving 3 to 3.5 thou out of round. He's also having some issues with the turbo smoking, and excessive blow-by will cause the turbos to have problems draining properly. So what I'm betting is these sleeves, they weren't installed correctly. Either they have too much press or not enough, and they're moving, and this work should have been done with a torque plate, and now it's going out of round when it's torqued. So I'm not sure exactly what to do on this one, because I know that they would have checked. I hope that they would have checked and made sure everything was right. But that doesn't mean it was. All the main bearings actually look really, really good. I don't see any problems with the mains. Every rod bearing though is bad, and he said he only made 2 hits on these rod bearings. So talking with him and going over the logs in the Holly, this thing drops pressure. And the only thing I can think is under boost with excessive blow-by, because he's got a good pan on it. So it's got trapdoors, it's got baffling. The only thing I can think is that the excessive blow-by is allowing it to have problems keeping a low pressure. And this is I'm not sure on it, because the pistons look good, everything like that looks good. This is a strange one, and I've been over this block looking for anything that sticks out, and I don't see anything. So I don't know if we're gonna start with a new block and let this one go, or have this block pressure checked and look for cracks or something I'm not seeing. Like maybe get a second set of eyes on it, because he said it idles all day fine. If you're beating it on the street, it's fine. I don't know. This is a good one though. The only thing I can think is that when it comes on boost, it's got excessive blow-by and it's causing pressure to drop. That's the theory I'm going with right now, because that's the only thing I have evidence to prove. You know, 2.5 to 3.5 thou out of round is a lot. So with these small rings, and they're not the highest tension rings, you know, that might be it, because that's all I see right now. So that's the theory I'm going with, and that's what we're gonna have fixed.